All right, so I think I'm back. Let's see if we get viewers back. All right, Mr. Magoo says I'm back, so I guess I'm back. I'm not showing any viewers in my dashboard, so that's weird. So OBS crashed. Why? I don't know. It just disappeared. It was running in the background, but it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't streaming or anything. It just kind of crashed out. Whatever services it had running failed for absolutely no reason. So we'll see how long this goes. Make sure you chime in the chat room again. Thanks, Mr. Magoo, for letting me know that I went offline. So my Twitch dashboard said I was online, but my OBS definitely threw an error at me. Who knows? We'll see how this new setup goes. Hopefully it works out, because there is no alternative for me right now. I can't get a computer to save my rear end. I was looking at Blazor Styled. I don't know how much of this got aired, but this is a open source project that I was debating whether I wanted to check out, and I started to think, hey, this actually might be a pretty good idea. There's some things that I like about Sass that I found in here that are implemented in this project as well. So we'll give it a shot. We'll see how this goes. So let's play around a little bit and see what we can do with it. I don't have an actual like component or project or anything I was going to try this on. Let's go ahead and fire up a new project. Let's do Blazor app. I'm not going to even name this one. We're just going to throw it away later. We'll go ahead and do WebAssembly and give that a load. So we'll play around with this for a little bit and see if we can burn this new machine in. Oh, a Visual Studio update, just what I need right now. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Don't know what's in that update. So let's launch the index page. And let's see, we don't have any real components in here yet, but let's pull in our dependency too. So what we're looking at is Blazor Styled. And let's see here. Browse. Hopefully everybody is doing well out there. And this is the first time I've had this machine set up. Let me know if you can all see my Visual Studio window, and let me know how well that's doing. Let me know if you can read the text and all that good stuff. I may need to bump up my font in here. I know, let's see, I don't have my zoom in here either. I need to reinstall my zoom tool. This looks small on my screen. I don't know how about how you all are seeing it. Keep an eye on memory usage. Streaming as a service, yeah. Yeah, I'm RDPing into this machine. Somewhat blurry but readable. All right, let's see what we can do about that. It should be better. We can always do better. Let's see here. Let me get this thing out of my way. I think I always, did I just see font awesome pop up in there? Font. Oh, and we have chaos upstairs. Kids are home. People are knocking at the door. Font size is small, 12 pixels. We need to bump this up. I think I usually run at about 16. Let me know if that is better. May even need to go a little bit higher. I am able to monitor this a little bit better than I was before, so I can see these things don't really look that great. Let's go up to, let's go ahead and go to 20 and see if that's too big. I think that looks pretty good. If I drop some of these unnecessary windows out of my way, that should be better for you all. 16 was fine. Maybe I'll come back down a little bit. Let's meet in the middle. Why does it keep going to font awesome? I don't want to font awesome. Why is that an option? Font awesome is in my list for some reason. Let's drop this back down just a tad. Let's go halfway. Let's go to 18. There we go. So we've got just some garbage in here. Survey prompt. Let's get that out of here. I've never used this framework before, so let's build some type of component in here. Let's start easy. Let's do. Let's take our fetch data and let's move our table out to a component and we'll style it. How about that? Let's see what we can do with this. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go to shared and add a new item here. So basically I'm just taking out our fetch data grid and moving it, or table. I don't want to call that a grid. That's not really a data grid. It's more of just a HTML table. We're going to put this in a fetched, or no, data table dot razor, and we'll stick that here. So now we've got our table, and we're going to need some properties to move this out. So it does not know what our data is that we're binding anymore. So now we have our data table component. So we're going to move that out, and then we'll style it using the Blazor Styled framework and see how that works out. How about that? So we need to get our data over to the table. So we're going to need a property here. Let's do prop tab tab. If you don't have prop tab tab, there is a if you go to the Visual Studio Marketplace and search for Blazor Pro, you will find some code snippets for those. So we need to get an IEnumerable of things over here. So it's going to be IEnumerable of object, and this is going to be our data. So we should be able to do that. Let's make this a little bit easier. That's going to cause me to have to do more coding than I want to do right now. We'll go ahead and call these a weather forecast. I'm going to be a little lazy and give it the type. I'm not going to make this a super generic component. It's not what I want to focus on right now. Inject. It doesn't know what a weather forecast is. Oh, I don't want weather. Yeah, I do want weather forecast. I want a weather forecast. I'm going to give it an array of those. I guess it's in a namespace I don't have. Oh, that's because it's a localized thing. I need to move this out. Starter project is so bare bones. I need to make it a little more robust here and add a class. And we'll call that weather forecast and put it right in the root. Not making anything too much to any kind of best practices. I just want to get this done so I can reference it, so we can focus on the actual task. All right, there we go. Now we have our forecasts here. Let's just call this data. Forecast in data. We're going to pass that in. And now on the fetch data screen, we can pass that over. So our data will be, I did a property, not a parameter. So I'm being super rusty today. I didn't do parameter, I didn't do paratab tab, I did prop tab tab, which gave me a property, not a parameter. Started writing a weather forecast module for Blazor yesterday. Making it a little easier to run demo projects there. Just pulling in a we need the weather forecast on NuGet now. All right, so we've got the data property here now. We can pass along a forecast to it. Array of forecasts. Should implement IEnumerable. Well, why don't I have this now? Weather forecast is... Where did it go? Where's my... Oh, there it is. Weather forecast is a public class. Why can I not see it in here? Oh, it can see it. It's not highlighting. That's weird. Forecast does not exist in the current context. Oh, I bet I know what this is. This is Razor being Razor. Close this and reopen it. Oh, for your home automate. I got you now. Okay, so a literal weather module. Gotcha. So for a Raspberry Pi device. Cool. Very cool. So we can pass forecasts over to our data table. And let's make sure this renders correctly. And then we can play with the styles of it. So it works. I've moved it to a component on its own. And now I can create some styles inside of the component, not this one, in the data table component, with the Blazor Styled framework. So I've pulled in the reference. So Copper Beardy's got a WASM PWA on a Raspberry Pi. Very nice. And then API is running on a Linux container on your server. You have multiple Pis. Very cool. How's the performance of WASM PWAs on a Raspberry Pi? That would be good information to know. Let's see. So let's go back to introduction. Let me make sure I installed this correctly. The basics install. Here we go. So I've installed it. Oh, I need to inject a service first. So let's go install the service. So if you've been slacking on some Blazor WebAssembly for the time I've been not streaming, there was a change to where services get registered in Blazor for WebAssembly. And now they're in the startourprogram.cs file. So we can go services, add. Let's see if we have a helper here. Add, yep, we do. Blazor Styled. And if I hit Control period, it should give me IntelliSense. It does not. So I'm going to have to add a using statement manually up here. Using Blazor Styled. Let's see if that gives me, there it goes. IntelliSense didn't pick it up for some reason, but that helped out. So let's see. It's acceptable. So I asked what the performance of WASM, Blazor WASM on a Raspberry Pi was. The answer is acceptable. Not exactly fast. It takes about 20 seconds to load the PWA after launch. Ooh, ouch. 20 seconds is a lot. What's nice though is what you're doing isn't probably going to be like reloading a page a lot, I would assume. You're once you load it, it's going to be up for a while. So you're not like having these 20-second delays all the time. So once it's up, and on like a kiosk device like this, you know, you're talking about something like similar to like a thermostat or something like that. You know, you boot it once and it stays on for a long period of time. That's actually not bad at all. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I need to get a Raspberry Pi and check it out sometime. I just haven't had a need to do it, or spare time. I've got like a million side projects that I want to do, and you can only prioritize them so many ways. So step 1, I installed the NuGet package. Step 2, I added the service to my dependency injection system. This would be our server-side configuration. We don't have a server-side. Oh, imports. Definitely need to do this. I need to add to our imports, our global imports. We're going to use this everywhere. I would imagine in an application this is common to use on all the things. So we'll try that out there. And now we should be able to go to our data table and write inline styles. So I would use the styled component. And inside of this, I now can write just a CSS style, which is interesting. Is that how this works? The basics. Let's go to the basics and see what we have. Bind class name. So we want to get we want to give it a class name. And all right, so we can add a class name that way, and we can toggle the class name. Not sure why we would do that, but let's try it out. So let's see. Allows us to define CSS rules within a Blazor component, calling it iStyle.css, inserts a style dynamically into a style sheet. And we have dogs going crazy upstairs again. Welcome to the quarantine, folks. All right. So I don't know if I want to do a hot pink, but we'll play along with the example for now. We need a backing field for this. So we'll drop a backing field in here, and we already have a class of table right here. So that's gonna be we can always append this to our class name. So love razor, I can just boop, put a space there, and after table. Not sure hot pink will make it into production. I know, right? It can if we're shipping on Friday, Marcus, voice of the programmer. If we are shipping on Friday, hot pink can make it into production. Or if you're Lyft, right? Why is it pulling up email? Yeah, so, I mean, that's legit, right? Lyft is, they're hot pink, aren't they? Free advertisement for Lyft just now. So maybe hot pink is our thing. You never know, Marcus. You never know. So since I already have a table class, I'm going to add this class here. And that will give me that. Something tells me I need to set this somewhere, though. I'm binding example to this field, but I'm not giving it a value. So how does that work? Let's see if I can follow along. Because CSS is embedded, you can use variables in CSS. What am I missing here? Don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with this. Let's give this a run, see if it even runs. So it does that in the background, huh? Huh, okay. So I don't literally have a class name. It is doing some magic to create one. Oh, because it's probably going to scope it and auto-generate something, right? Interesting. So I don't need to specify a string there because it is doing something on its own. It's kind of like auto-generating something for me. And you can see it here. So the actual class name is WADXHNB. Let me see if I refresh. Is this randomly chosen? How is this working? So it's not random. Let me try closing the app. and then rerunning it, Control F5 again. Notice we have got a lot better response time. If you've joined me for future streams, or if you have a time machine, you've joined me in the future. Now, if you joined me on past streams, so I'd like to know how it gets this name. It's constant. WXD H blah blah blah. So it gives me a random-ish string there, and automatically applies that class by data binding it. So that's pretty interesting. So what I was trying to say about needing a time machine, if you join me on past streams, not future streams, that'd be goofy. If you join me on past streams, I've had a lot of issues running, Control F5. We're waiting in the browser like 2, 3, 4 seconds, waiting for the machine to just catch up. Now I've got a virtual machine. You can see here, I'm dragging this little window around. This is a second desktop from another machine I'm pulling in as a virtual machine. This is how Jeff Fritz does his stuff now and then. I don't know if he's running a single machine these days or if he's remote desktoping too. But he was the one that suggested this a long time ago, and I should have listened. Should have listened, Jeff. Yeah, this works a lot better. The performance is a lot better than before. Still like to have everything on one machine someday, though. But this is not too inconvenient. So we've got our hot pink style. Let's do the next demo here. We're going to create some buttons that we can click on. Let's see. This is a different demo altogether, I think. This is more of an inline style. Using predefined class names. So we can set the class name. So let's see. Okay. So we're talking about like pseudo class names here. So evidently this style rule, this component creates an I-styled object or interface. Yeah, Dell Precision is what Jeff's on. He changes equipment quite often, I think. That may be what he's on these days. It's been a little while since I talked to him. He has like a mobile platform too that he uses. He's always trying new things out to see what works best. He's got a lot of time invested in streaming and done an amazing job doing it. So I should probably catch up with him again sometime soon. We're doing a show together next week, so I'll have a chance to chat with him and see what he's using these days. Should be interesting. So it looks like we can attach to class names. Sometimes you may need to use a specific class name or HTML element selector. Call iStyle.css to determine the rules. I'm still trying to put 2 and 2 together here. I don't quite get how this is working. I see we have, is it getting it from the class name? I don't see that happening either. Class at link. I can see where the pseudo classes come in. We've got, okay, there's dot active. So that, I see. Okay, that makes sense now. So I can use a class name here if I want to. Let's try that. Dot background. So I can call it background, even though maybe I shouldn't do background, but let's say table BG. There we go. So if I call that table BG, oh, I don't get like any kind of IntelliSense here. And I can, I understand why that doesn't happen. That's kind of a downer. Don't like that we don't get IntelliSense. I make a lot of mistakes. Let's just face it. That's the reason why I don't. Let's see. Let's try this again. Oh, I lost lost that now. So back to the docs. Let me see what I did wrong here. So that works for like active, but oh, I have a binding on that. So oh, I see what I'm doing. So I would remove this. So I can remove the bind option here, and then I would give it a name here and say table BG or BG table. Which one was it? Table BG. All right, so that should do the same thing. Should get a hot pink background again. That works. So that's pretty cool. So I have options. I like that I have options. I can do this, or I can name the style here and use binding to get it. I like the ampersand styling is that you get from like Sass. That is pretty cool. So if it was a link and I had a hover, you can do ampersand hover, and that will get added there. Is that a typo? Double semicolon? I think it is. So I'm trying to think how I might use this. Let's pull in something a little more difficult to let's up the ante. Let's do that. I'm gonna pull this out for a minute. Take these styles out of here. Let's grab a project. Let's actually close this out. Let's jump into the deep end of the pool, guys. So that was a good introduction to how this works. Let's see if we can make something practical out of it. I'm going to go to GitHub. And this probably... I don't have GitHub on here. Good Lord. I can still go to GitHub, though. I just want to grab a project of my own. Is that how that works? There we go. So let's grab one of my projects and see if we can refactor it a little. Maybe that would be a good, not CSS builder. Maybe that'll give me a good idea of how this would work. SpinKit. It's a bit like Vue. You get CSS and HTML and JavaScript all in the same file. Not sure I'm a fan. That's what I'm trying to figure out exactly. Is this something I like? Not saying other people shouldn't use it. I think it's great if you have a use case for it. That is awesome. Please use it. Looks like a really great project. I'm trying to evaluate for me, is this something I like? And so far there's some cool stuff that I do like. So let's keep it up. Let's do some more. So I'm bringing in SpinKit. This is a project that is kind of a fork or a port of generic HTML and CSS type of thing. So if we go to SpinKit, this is the non-Blazor project. Basically, it has all these really cool spinners that you can use. They have all these nice effects. There's no JavaScript in here. It's all CSS code and a little bit of HTML. I found it really easy to port over to Blazor, and there's some nice spinner components that I have for Blazor. And inside of this, there is, oh, these projects are not going to be up to date. I think the server side is going to be the most compatible. I need to go into this and update these. Mr. Curious Drive, welcome back to the show. So far, we've only had one. We've only had one fail for my hardware, and it went offline, and I dropped the stream. So you missed out on that part, but I missed doing the stream as well. Sorry, I had to go offline for so long. I was waiting for a PC to come. Okay, so I'll update you, Curious Drive. Waiting for a PC to come. I ordered a good 3 weeks before the the virus madness started, and we went on lockdown, and everybody closed their businesses and all that good stuff. And 3 weeks later, I'm trying to find out where my computer is, because things are starting to get crazy, and I'm told that the shipment's not coming because virus reasons. And it's not going to be until late May before I get a new computer. So I put my engineering cap on and threw another computer I had together and put it on the network so I can remote desktop into it, and I can share some of the processing power that it requires to run a stream and Visual Studio at the same time. So that's where we're at today. That's why you see I've got this nice remote desktop window here, which I can pull that pin out of there, I think. Come on, get off my screen. I don't know why that doesn't go away. That's what pins are for, I thought. Anyhow. Oh, it's not showing up on the stream, so there we go. Okay, I wasn't off it long enough. So you see that fade away now. So now I've got remote desktop power. So that thing is probably only running at like 10% over there. Meanwhile, my Surface Book is chugging along, putting the stream out to you guys. So font is a little small. We just went through this debate. Like, okay, I don't have any code up yet, so the code should be better. Let me double check something while we're talking about it. Let's minimize that and this. And what am I running at? I thought I was running at, oops, wrong one. I should be running at 1080 in here. Really? What is this? Does it match? It's matching graphics settings. It should be matching my desktop. Okay, yeah, that's great. Let's see. I'll pull this off real quick. I think it just matches my desktop. It should be 1920 by 1080. And I don't know why it wouldn't be very visible. Let's see. Let's do this. Let me close. Yeah, no, I'm gonna disconnect. That's okay. Remote desktop connection. Options. Display. Use all of my monitor. No, I don't want to use all my monitors. Choose the size of your remote desktop. Drag the slider all the way to the right to use full screen. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure it was set to 1080. I can't set it from here. So I don't think it's scaling. Don't think it's scaling at all. I believe we're all, the desktop is running on that machine at 1080, and I am also running 1080 here, which is the max you can get out of a stream. But the font size in this will be good enough for everybody to see, so I'm not too worried about it. Let's go ahead and let me try to run the SpinKit solution. So I just forked SpinKit here. Or I didn't fork it, I just pulled it down. Cloned it. It is installing dependencies. So we'll run SpinKit. We'll see if we can use Blazor Styled with SpinKit. See if we can pull the CSS out of it just for an example and see how that works. So here's my current concerns. I've never tried this before. It looks really cool so far. It lets you, if you're just joining me, checking out Blazor Styled. It lets me put styles from for my components in my components instead of CSS files. Just kind of kicking the tires on it to see how it works. I see there's some Sass-like features to it. I can use variables in it. I can use nested selectors. All that is pretty cool. My concerns so far would be how efficient is it on WebAssembly? WebAssembly at this point has some performance considerations that you need to be aware of. And the less stuff you throw in the render tree, the better. And my concern here is I'm putting more things in the render tree that could be taken care of with static assets like CSS files. So that's my remaining concern. But I want to check this out. I want to see if I can refactor one of my SpinKit samples. Let's see if I can even run this. These are, I can't remember what version this was on when I created it. Let's see if it's compatible. SpinKit tests client side. Let's try client side sample and let's see if that runs. So this is without Blazor Styled. I may need to upgrade the project, I'm not sure. This was like, oh, I can't remember which version. Oh, this seems to be working. So I already have all the capabilities that I would expect from a Blazor component. Like I can declare a color and a size. So SpinKit is able to do that. And I can set my spinners this way, and they're fully like data binding friendly and all that good stuff. We can customize their position, where they appear, and it does some advanced features like it has a fail and a pass mode and all kinds of cool stuff. It can even go into a modal like this. So we have our SpinKit. What I want to do is see if I can replace the CSS part of it with a Blazor Styled approach. So in the source code for this, my CSS is in, oh, it's in a minified file. Ooh, okay, can we on-minify that? Yeah, we can. So this is it's quite a bit of code here. So we probably won't move all this out. We'll do a little bit at a time. There are 700 lines of CSS in here. Baby steps, baby steps. Let's see, where can we take this? There's some basic styles in here. Yeah, see, this is where these CSS in a language like frameworks throw me off. I don't know how I would start carving these things out, because I'm going to have some common elements here. Let's see here. I've got my root element. This is where CSS variables are defined. Evidently, I wouldn't need this with Blazor Styled. And let me know if this font size is any better now. Is this on GitHub? So yes, this is from GitHub. I went to github.com. It's also on NuGet as well. Oops, nope. So let me share the GitHub page with you, Kira's Drive. This is SpinKit. It's a fully baked Blazor component that you can get, Razor component. Here's the GitHub page for it. Now, it is also on NuGet. So if you go to NuGet, you can get it directly without all the source code and all that nonsense. Thank you, Elliot Brand, for the subscription. Appreciate that. Very much appreciated. The show's back. I'll be on here quite often now that it looks like I have a stable rig. But you can find SpinKit up on GitHub. It's free, open source, forked from a HTML, CSS framework. So just kind of seeing, would I be able to use Blazor Styled to replace the CSS, and should I? Kind of a fun experiment, just kind of working with that right now. So we've got Blazor Pro.SpinKit is up. That's the full version. Like what I'm doing right now is not going to be submitted to that project. If anything, I'll put it under another branch just as an experiment. Let's see. Let's pull this up. Let's branch. I'm going to do another branch, new local branch, and we'll just say Blazor Styled experiment. We'll just put it in this branch. And if I do upload it, it'll be for show purposes. I don't think this is going to be in the final product because this works. The way I have it now works. I'm not going to break it. But this is just to kind of check out the Blazor Styled framework with something a little bit larger than what we were doing earlier. So this has quite a bit of code. I don't know where to even begin, but we'll try to figure this out. Each one of these is a different spinner, so we may be able to pull a specific spinner out and just do one at a time. Like there's the wave spinner, there is the pulse spinner. So there may be a place to carve out one or two of these and try them out and see if we can make this work. I may need to change that's what I should do. Is change the prefix and see if I can get that to help us along. Let's go to Solution Explorer. Let's see here. I don't need a properties window. Let me ditch that. So I have multiple projects in here. I really need my zoom function. Let me see if I can get my zoom working. Pardon the dust. I gotta move this aside for a moment so I can find my zoom tool. Zoom it, options, toggle zoom, Control Alt Q. Okay, that should. Why is that not working earlier? Control Alt Q. This does not work with remote desktop apparently. All right, let's try another key. Let me try it on my normal. Okay. So that doesn't work in remote desktop land. I have to have my Zoom It installed here. So, excuse me for a moment. Another sidebar. Zoom It. So there's a really nice little tool. It's under Windows Essentials called Zoom It. And this is what I use to help with my presentations and things that I do, and I do a lot of those online because of the current situation. Let's see, how do I install this? Drop it on the desktop. Run it. I agree to all the terms. Alt Q, hit OK. And I think that's it. Control Q. Yay, I can zoom again. All right. So just that quick and easy, I can do this. All right, so I've got several projects in here. Is broken up into samples. These are a client-side Blazor and a server-side Blazor example. The SpinKit source code is in another project. That's what we're going to be working with for a little bit. There are unit tests. We're not going to mess with those today, but essentially, when I make changes in this Razor component library, they will be reflected in these two example packages or projects. So that's kind of the scenario that we have. We have one CSS file that is running all of our spinners. Let's take one specific spinner and move the CSS code out to that spinner and see if we can mess around with that. So what would be a good spinner to start with? I think we need to leave, let's see, that's a helper class. There doesn't seem to be a lot of common CSS. I thought there would be. I didn't write the CSS, so this is going to be interesting. Some of it's animation related. This is for the chaser Bounce. And okay, so bounce has bounce dots. We should probably look at how each spinner is constructed, and that will help get an idea of how they work. So we should look at the let's take a look at let's run the app one more time. Look at the sample. I'm going to close some of these tabs here. And so all of these spinners are available from that one library. They are all coming out of one CSS file. What I want to do is take one of them and use Blazor Styled instead of CSS and see how that works. So I might grab the plain. I think plain or pulse are two of the easier ones. The rest of these have many elements. Like this chaser has a lot of elements in it. Let's take a look at pulse. So the pulse component looks like this, and it basically has nothing in it. It has the spinner container, and spinner container has a div, and it can merge the additional attributes into it. It applies a CSS class called skPulse, and it can also accept an inline style, which we're not going to apply. That's for extensibility. So base class gets passed in and becomes the default CSS class for this div element. So how would I write that as a Blazor Styled component? So let's see. Let's do this very explicitly first. Let's do add a new item, and we will call it something really simple. That was Pulse I was looking at. We'll call it Pulse 2. Don't like to normally put numbers on these things, but this is how it's going to work. So what Pulse does is it is simply a div that has a class of skPulse. That is it. That is all it is. Literally, that is the component. It's been abstracted away, so it's got some extensibility points in it. I can set color and set size, and I can merge additional attributes in and override some of the CSS styles and those type of things. And this base component, the spinner base, powers all of the spinners. So it serves as kind of a container element for all of these things. So I'm going to just bypass that completely. So we're going to lose all the extensibility stuff, but I can focus in on the style itself. And I'm going to keep opening this doofy little email thing. Let me kill this on pin. There we go. So we can focus in on that. Now we have a component called Pulse 2, and we can go into our example page. And let's go to the index. Let's actually wipe this out. We're not going to use any of the individual spinners there. We're going to say Pulse 2. And I don't have IntelliSense, so that tells me that the way I am getting a reference to this package is not set up right. All the builds succeeded. Let me see, how am I referencing this package? So it's definitely not there. It's under Projects, SpinKit. So I should have a reference to it. Don't know why I'm not getting a reference in here. Interesting. So I have a Pulse 2 component. This project is linked. Electric Havoc, yes, this is some sexy code. This is actually a really good project, and I don't mean to brag. It's not like a humble brag moment. The SpinKit project, if you're... I pasted a link in earlier. If you don't see it in the chat room, if you joined after, let me know. I'll paste it again. The SpinKit code is one of my best projects, I feel like. As far as best practices go on component architecture, this is one of my favorites. This came out extremely nice. So it's kind of given a little overview of it earlier, and basically there's this little container that kind of takes care of all of these spinners that are available, because for the most part all the spinners have a common like wrapper component, and the only thing that changes is a little CSS value. And then some of them have different child components that, you know, add, like this one here has the chaser. It just renders many dots. And then the component that has all the dots for the chaser just has, it has these little subcomponents inside of, or not even components really. It just has these children elements inside of it, and the container handles pretty much everything else, and it allows you to merge attributes, set a size and color through CSS variables, and it's really nice. Thanks for the follow. Pakabi123, bad at names, sorry. And the, oh my gosh, something that looks like it sounds like spaghetti but probably doesn't. Bogatti, thank you for following. And Skanker, thank you for following as well. They really need, like, I struggle with this every time. Twitch needs spaces and better naming abilities in here. Or just use your real name. Don't hide behind a fake name. Curious Drive. We all have real names, don't we? We're real people. Just teasing. Thank you. All right, so it's a good place to look. Well, you guys are just going to keep following just so I have to say these names, aren't you? Deharnick. I'm going to go with that. Thank you for following as well. So SpinKit, the Blazor SpinKit thing, good place to follow kind of conventions, splat attributes if you haven't tried those out, and CSS variables. This is one of my favorite pieces of it, and this is why I'm trying to get to. Really? So we're going to go with this Curious Drive. Fahad, I will say your first name. My last name is terrible. People butcher it all the time, so I'm not gonna. Yeah, this is as far as I'm taking it. All right, so this is one of my favorite parts of this. Is it was built with CSS variables, so not Sass, but CSS variables, and when you set a color, that color will then get applied as an inline style. But it's a CSS value. That makes sense. So what's really cool there is I'm not using like old school inline styles, which are really terrible. Bad practice for the most part. For the most part, there are uses for it. Trying to remember where I just used them recently in a Blazor project, and I'm drawing a blank. But there's definitely use cases for it. But these are better than old school inline styles because they map to a variable, and then they just override that CSS color for that scoped version of that for that element. So you kind of get this functionality that we're looking for from Blazor Styled out of the box from regular CSS, which is one of the reasons I'm doing this. I want to kind of play with both and see which one I like. And we're on to the spinner 2, which I can't figure out why, for the life of me, why it's not compiling. so I don't get off on a tangent again. Let's try to focus on this. Index page is linked properly. I'll do add reference again. Projects, spin kit. Okay, why am I not getting my pulse 2 component? Don't get it. I don't get it. Oh, I'm not in the right namespace. That's why. I bet that's it. So it should be, let's try this. Using spin, nope, Blazor Pro dot spinkit dot spinners. Then it lights up. I forgot they're in a sub namespace. So spinkit is the top level, and then spinners is the individual spinners namespace. So that solved that stupid problem. I should be able to control F5, and we should get a bounce component, or pulse, I mean. There's our pulse. So that works. And again, all it is a div. Let's pull this side by side now that we've got it working. We've got a workflow, folks. We've got a workflow. We've only been here 2.5 hours. No, we've only been live an hour. We finally have a workflow going. I'm done rambling, I think. All right, so spin pulse. Pulse 2 does that. It is on my index page here. And now I can split this vertically. This is my component. That is really all it takes, because there's magical CSS behind the scenes. And if we do pulse, sk pulse, this is all of the CSS code. So now I'm going to rip this out. Control C, and I'm going to remove this. I'm going to call it, let's call it BSK pulse. So now I've got another namespace here, and I'm no longer going to rely on the CSS from my CSS file. So no more CSS. Let's go to chat here real quick. Elliot Brand, thank you for using a real name, Elliot. One that I can pronounce. Elliot Brand. Yeah, see what I'm doing there? All right, so Elliot says, I just received an email from Telerik. Looks like you're going to be doing some streaming. Yes, covered this very early on. Oh, but really? Come on, I gave you props. Don't throw me under the bus like that. Elliot, Steve, Elliot, Brand. Come on. Work with me. Right, so if we go to, I had it open a minute ago, Twitter, twitter.com, Telerik. Yeah, I'm going to be on the Twitch channel, Code It Live. I don't want to mess up my clipboard. Hang on a second. Let me pop that in there. So we're going to do some more coding on Code It Live this week. There's the link. That's the email that Elliot got. Steve, Elliot, Brand. Jeez, killing me, guys. At least it's names I can say. All right. This is revenge for having a long last name my whole life. All the people that have had to try to say my last name. This is finally come full circle. All right. So I'll be there next week. We're going to do some more fun coding examples. We're going to actually build something. I don't know what yet, but we'll need your help to do that. So I pulled the CSS code out of my CSS file, and I no longer am linking to that CSS code that was in the file. And I want to move it. I pasted in the wrong side. I'm blaming Elliot for that one, or Steve, or whatever you want to go by this afternoon. I want to put it in here. I'm going to throw it in a cheap style tag for a minute. We could do that. I would never suggest to do this unless you're just doing some little quick demo thing. Yeah, it was in the wrong file there, Janescu. This is the component on the right-hand side. This is the page I'm using it on the left-hand side. I just threw it in a regular CSS style tag for a moment. I'll talk about why we don't want to do this. This is bad. And that's the reason why. And if we run this again, we can see why this is a bad idea. Did it not recompile? Rebuild. Let's try that again. What are you doing? Why don't I have 4 spinners? Oh, because I broke them. Right? Let's try this again. Let me try one more time. There we go. This is the reason why we don't want to do a regular style tag. That's because the style tag gets rendered multiple times. Let's see. I don't see it being rendered at all. So let me double check. Let me rebuild my solution. Keyframes does not exist in the current. Oh, need to escape that. So if I were to do this, I would get 4 instances of that style. So I've got style, and then the next component has that style again. And this is just going to pollute my HTML page or rendering with a bunch of styles just in there. I don't want that output every single instance of the pulse that I create. That's bad. That's really bad. We do not for any circumstance ever want to use that. Maybe on a page, on a one-off demo, that's okay. Never in a component. This is just bad practice. It's just going to create havoc. So what we want to do is check out the Blazor Styled thing again. And I'm going to pull that in now on, let's see, pull this dependency into here. Dependencies, add a NuGet package. And we will add Blazor Styled again. We had this in an earlier example. We did some of the little basic routine things, and what's wrong? Package downgrade detected. There is a reference to an earlier version. I need to upgrade. I need to upgrade my project. So I'm on an older version of this. Is Blazor. It's a Razor component library. This is the. I might need to republish this. I didn't realize this was an issue. So I may need to update my NuGet package. This is good to know. I'll have to do that this afternoon and push that back out. Nobody has alerted me. Actually, we need a sidebar again. Sorry about this. I know I want to get on with the show here, but this is important. No one has reported this to me. So SpinKit, issue 1, support .NET Standard 2 or above. Ooh, okay, maybe when you're using this in a shared project as .NET Standard, everything explodes. How come I have not seen this before? Okay. All right, so let me modify this so I know it is there and it is a bug. And I need to file another issue, which is update to latest Blazor version. I misspelled latest. Good Lord. All right. Now I'm not even going to comment on it. I don't need to. The title alone is enough. And there we go. All right. So I need to update that later because it is throwing this error here. And I don't know, is 3.2 the latest version? Does that solve my problem? No, it does not. What happened here? Did I just blow up the whole thing or what? Updates. Let's try here. No packages found. Boy, I just ruined the whole thing. Let's see. Changes. Yeah, stop it. What is going on here? So adding that as a package is you have a search tag. Move the search term. Oh, thank you. That's the problem. Blazor component utilities was out of date too. Let's update that one. Now I'm getting something. Namespace Microsoft does not exist. Let's try this as well. I bet it's going to go solution wide and blow up all my solutions now. I'm going to have to migrate everything. If this is going to be a migration nightmare, then I might have to rethink this example as well. I didn't realize I was going to run into all this. Come on, just update. For the love of God, just update. Oh, I'm creating so much red squigglies. Look at this. This is just downgrading packages, upgrading packages. Just update. For the love of God, just update. There we go. There we go. It's starting to... I hit uninstall. Did I? I thought I hit update. Yee. All right. So that worked, and that... Why is that still throwing stuff at me? All right. Did that work? I think I'm going to find out. It did not. Well, still missing a reference to Blazor component utilities. This is from which imports? SpinKit. Source imports. All right. Dependencies. Manage NuGet packages. So I must have uninstalled Blazor component utilities. So thank you for that. Dark Repulsor, you found what I accidentally uninstalled this one. Yeah, that should fix my problem. And it did not. What is going on here? Ah, 4 succeeded. Yay, it works. Can I still run it? I don't know. Let's see. It still runs somehow. Like, this is one of those my code works and I don't know why moments. It shouldn't work. There were some breaking changes in the latest versions of .NET that I thought would have put the squash on that actually running, but it's working now. Let's run with this. Let's not look, let's count our blessings and move on. Blazor Style. Let's ship it, right? It's Friday. Ship it. Blazor Styled. Now we should be able to install. Okay. There we go. Boom. Now we have Blazor Styled, and we can go in and see how it would work in this scenario. So we can pull this inline style out, and instead, and we need to change this so we don't accidentally pull from the CSS version of it. We're going to use an inline styled version of it. Oh, we also need to register the dependency. That would be in the, so I need to add it to my project as well. So this is, for me, a roadblock. So in order to use this, we're going to have to add it to the consuming project 2. So let's level add, or just NuGet package manager. So I have to add it here as well. Because it uses dependency injection, and I need to have that in my application. So the Blazor SpinKit stuff is in a component library. There's no way it's going to have dependency to resolve. So I'm going to have to put it in here. Configure services. Services. Ooh, not service collection. Services dot add Blazor Styled. There we go. IntelliSense worked this time. Didn't work last time. Picked it up right away, and it was added, and now I have it in the project. I believe that was the only configuration I needed. Let's go back to the docs. So Blazor Styled, getting started. I added the reference, and then I need the using statement. That's going to be in my component library though. In my component library, imports.razor. Actually, I only want to put it in Pulse 2 for now because I'm not really using it anywhere else. So I'm going to use Blazor Styled, and then now we can convert this tag to a styled tag, which looks like the basics. And so it is capital styled, T-Y-L-E-D. And then that, I believe, should be enough. And I need to rename these. It should be BSK Pulse and BSK Pulse here. That should be everything I need. And then these need to change. These can actually be .NET variables. So, yeah. Because there's no longer... Well, let's see what happens when I run it. It may pick up... Let's see if it picks up the CSS variable first. Just to see if it does anything. No. So that's not doing anything. So something is not quite right here. It's got some style. BSK Pulse. Maybe because it doesn't have a width and a height properly, it's not working. It's outputting some CSS here. I can see that it has a style. So that much worked. But it says 40 pixels and 40 pixels. So it's got a height. It is picking up the CSS variables. So we can use CSS variables here if we want to. But the animation is not there. And, ooh, well, that's interesting. All right, documentation first before I say this isn't going to work. Keyframes. There we go. Keyframes. Is keyframes is true. So it looks like there is an alternative syntax to what we're doing here. So it looks like in order to get animations to work, I should have told Shannon that I was doing this, so he could have been here to help. Yeah. So this needs to go in its own style, as far as I can tell, like that. It needs. Okay, so downside here is I don't have any kind of formatting or IntelliSense. That is a pain. So Shannon, if you're listening, it'd help to have some way. I know you would have to bake that into Visual Studio, so I don't know how you'd make that work. But if there's anything you can think of to hack around that, that would be helpful. So we have to use this is keyframes equals true and then wrap it around that. Let's see if this does anything for us. Oh, I got the wrong animation name in there too. It should have worked because I have the CSS version of that animation in there. Animation, let me double check this. So that's how you create the animation. And then this one is binding it by name, or by using the bind syntax. I didn't want to use the bind syntax. It showed a reload at the bottom. There's an error in the console. Good eye, I didn't see that myself. There is an error in the console. Yep, there definitely is an error in the console. What am I missing? Let's move that developer console to the bottom where it belongs. Missing character. We're missing a character somewhere. Ah, there it is. There we go. So I had at least one error. I don't think these need transform, scale, opacity. These may need trailing semicolons as well. Let's try that. Dark Repulsor, you are very helpful today. Thank you very much. Still something wrong. No error this time though, so thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, console's nice and clear. But I do not have a keyframe animation. So it has a reference to an animation, but there is no animation rendered. So I don't know how to fix this yet. I tried saying is keyframes equals true, but that didn't seem to render anything. So I can try using the bind syntax. Now, let's do that. Let's create, so we're gonna need a code block in here. At code equals that. What does this need to be called? Private string bounds. Oops. Actually, we don't need private keyword on there. It's already private in the scope. We're going to say string pulse. And then we should be able to bind it using at bind. How did the syntax go again? Class name equals pulse. Like that. That's our animation name. And then animation that does map that just like that at pulse. So that would be how we tie the two together. Yeah, the dot is not pulsing. So we're not getting an animation. Oh, and this needs to come out. Boop and boop. So we've got open curly, close curlies. The formatting on this is really a pain. Yeah, I don't like that at all. So every time I do this, my formatting breaks. All right. Still very interesting experiment. This is still a really good framework as far as what it's trying to accomplish. It's one of the better options that we have, or best option we may have for doing this. Declare tab bankruptcy. Now I have nothing, so I broke something here. I've got literally nothing rendering now. There's my component, and it has no style. Not a single drop of style came out of that. What the? So I bound it like that, like it shows in the instructions. Bind class name is keyframe equals true. That should be my animation, and then I can do this. I didn't want to do this, but I can do this. Let's go ahead and put, oops, not what I meant to do. let's go ahead and do that. Instead of naming it, we will put it inside of that type of notation, and we can always do that. That's ugly syntax, but we can use it. And then this becomes example. Control F5. We'll see if the magic works. Oh, we did it. Look at this. We did it. Oh, I forgot class equals pulse somewhere. Did I really? So I didn't forget class equals pulse. This is the animation. So what's interesting here is I needed to use the binding syntax to make it render here. It doesn't let me use the named class syntax that I had before. So I can't use this. I have to use that. That's a little strange to me. So maybe I'm doing something wrong. Could be user error still, but we did get it to work. So right now we're using the CSS variables. And it's nice to know that we can still mix and match and use CSS variables, which gives us support for if we wanted to let somebody style the application using CSS variables and not have to dive into the component code. So that's pretty cool. So if we look at this, if we came into, I'm trying to remember where this would be set up. Let's inspect this guy again. Yeah, so see we're using SK size here, and this one doesn't have color. Should have a color. Size, color. Why is background color hard-coded on this? Oh, there it is. Background color. Background color's not rendering. Why are these? Chrome, what are you doing? So Chrome is telling me I have width var sk size, which is great. But why is it rendering a color and not the variable? This should be sk color. Yeah, that should be var sk color as it's described right here. For some reason, it's coming out the literal color. So what we should be able to do is I should be able to go in, say, I should be able to add a style called root, like this. And then it's dash dash sk dash background, or no, color. And then pick a color like that. And if I did that right, which I don't know if I did, it should override the color. Oh, it did color it. Or the opacity changed. Which one is it? No, that did work. There we go. You can see that, right? So I don't know why I don't know why Chrome, the Chrome tools, you can see this here. It's very faint. So what's cool is I can type the variable name and then a color, and that will apply a variable or apply a value to that variable and change the spinner no matter where it is. And you can see as I drag this, our pulse color changes. That's CSS variables for you. That's pretty powerful stuff. The way I used that to my advantage in SpinKit, we'll turn that back to black, is I do this in SpinKit. So instead of changing it globally, I have a parameter that I pass in. And what's really neat is you can do this. You can say style equals, and then that is actually a style now. So you can say sk color, and it becomes a style property. And you can say purple like that, I believe. And that will, oh, it shut my attribute down. Style equals double dash sk dash color. Let's try red. There we go. Okay, so I can also do that. That's really cool for me. That makes it super easy to style a component without a framework. So that's what we're up against. So we can still use those variables just like that, which is nice. So we do have options to stay within the CSS realm as much as we want to. There's some flexibility there. But what we can also do is we can set up a parameter. And we can call it color. And we could get some actual colors and put them in here. We should probably put a default like that. So now we actually have a color that we can play around with, and this is where the strength of this type of thing comes in. Again, we could do it in CSS, but now we have C# conventions. Did I not make it a parameter? Did I not compile it? I didn't compile it yet. Oh, I got a code error. That's what it is. Yeah. I fixed it. Catch up, Visual Studio. Catch up. So now I have an actual property that maps directly to that, but now I can't change it from CSS, which I think is the point here. People want the ability to lock these things down and not have them changed from the outside world and overridden. So there I've actually changed it from code. So I have a color property of red that is overriding the default color of black and applying the red value from my Razor code directly into the CSS style. So that's cool. But now I've lost my CSS variable. I can't globally set it. But again, that is for some scenarios, that is the desired result, is I don't want people to change it from the outside. So I don't want a CSS value that can be easily overridden and maybe make things not display correctly. So I think in this this generated style helps with that as well. But I think what the object of a tool like this is you don't want developers going like Wild West on the project and like creating their own styles. You want to lock it down to this is our theme, this is the company brand. You're not going to go outside these things and lock them all into the components so they can't be overridden very easily. And then you open up your extensibility points through properties like color maybe, or some other type of property that you want to set, like size. But it looks like they're interchangeable because we can still use CSS variables where we want to, and we can use .NET conventions where we want to. So it's cool that we have the flexibility there. We also see we have keyframe animations, so that is also an option. Now, if I were to ship this component, another thing is interesting here is I'm not going to ship a CSS file. So let's try this. First I need to convert these. Let's go ahead and convert the sizes. So I'll just duplicate this and say, oh, it only has one size property. So we can remove this. Set this. This will be 40 pixels, and we will put that here. So I can just bind. So that it's cool that I have IntelliSense for this stuff. That's another plus to using a tool like this. I have IntelliSense here. It's just Razor. So that gets resolved there. And now I should be able to run this again. And it shouldn't change, which is the desired output. I don't want this to change. So it should be red. It should be pulsing. I'm going to do this. Let's see if we can do it Chrome Tools. And then I can go ahead and remove this out of my source code. So we essentially don't need a CSS file anymore. If I delete that CSS file, notice my pulse still works and it's still colored correctly and everything. Because the style sheet is now embedded in the component, I don't have to worry about the style sheet existing at all. That's kind of cool. So let's just do a little quick sanity check and make sure that I didn't goof that up. We can go into www.root index.html and we will remove the link in here. If I control F5, yeah, see that? We still have our spinner, but no CSS file for it. So it's all embedded directly in there. Now, I'll also show another reason why this is a very cool tool, even though, like I said before, it may not be something I use all the time, but if you're considering something like this, this is a benefit of it. I put the CSS file back to show you when I'm using a CSS file, if I'm not being smart about what I'm doing with this, did I not build it back out? I didn't refresh this or something. Let's try a refresh here. If I'm not being diligent about my CSS, I've got the SpinKit min CSS in here. It's not a lot of data. It's pretty small. We can actually grab the real size here if we wanted to. Empty cache, reload. It is minified. Whoops, I didn't mean to open it. Just wanted to see how big it was. Minified, it's 2K. 2K is nothing. But it is extra data because inside of SpinKit min CSS is every spinner ever. So like every spinner that is in here, all 200, was it 200? No, it was more than that. It was many lines. Let's go over to SpinKit, take a look. It is 700. We're shipping 720 lines of CSS code, and we're only utilizing 17 lines of code. Okay, think about that. We're out of all the CSS in this file, all 700 lines, these 17 lines are the only ones we actually use in the application. So when I slap on SpinKit min CSS, even though it's only 2K, I'm using all of, I'm sending all of that to the browser, and I'm only using a small percentage of it. And if I am able to remove that style sheet completely, then it's only using the styles that are here. So this is the only styles the application actually receives. And let's see how it does that is it's using a style sheet that it's generated, and I can see it here. It's auto-generated an ID for it, and it's passing it in as data here. So BlazorStyled style sheet name default. Not even sure where that exists, but I know that it's only doing this one time. It says style, so it's injecting it somewhere through this mechanism here. I'd have to read more in the docs or ask the author how that actually gets translated. But there's a style. Maybe it's in a. It's finding it here, so you can see it's a style tag with just this style in it, and this is all the CSS that gets transferred over the wire. So just those few lines get transferred over, and I don't need that whole CSS style sheet. This is nice for keeping things to a minimum. If you think of something really big like Bootstrap, you may only be using 5% of Bootstrap, but you've still got all of bootstrap.min.css. You can trim those down with Sass. You can. It's very easy to do, but it's a manual process. It's not an automated process like this is. So there's trade-offs. There's definitely trade-offs. I can see why people are attracted to this. It's pretty cool. One of my main concerns with something like this is usually readability, but essentially you're changing something that says style to styled, and Razor here isn't really obtrusive. There's no extra like build process you got to set up for this. We're not like doing some npm script thing. Lots of followers again. So let's take a moment. Let's take a moment. I'm on a tangent. Let's see here. Thank you for following Barsario. Again, I'm going to butcher every one of these, unless it's simple. Unless it's very simple, like unless it's something like Elliot, I'm going to butcher it. Another follower coming. Thank you again. So Barrosio, Steinich, 1978. That's a great year, by the way. 1978 is awesome. Daharnik. Thank you for following. Oh, I might have done some of these already. Oh, yep. So how did that happen? Did somebody unfollow and refollow? I've got some duplicates in here. So if I said your name twice, Pays ML, Subvino, Danith. Okay, I can't pronounce that one, but thank you for following. Slater94, thank you for following. Kotufa82. Do I know you? Do I know you? I may know you. 82, thank you. Mastan91, thank you. And Oma Jr., Oma Jr., thank you as well. So Dark Repulsor said, oh, wait, hang on, let me back up. I've got several comments in here I missed. It'd be cool if Visual Studio tracked all. Come on. This window thing, it's popping something up while I'm trying to read. Sorry. Elliot Brand said, and this may have been a moment ago, it'd be cool to see if Visual Studio tracked all the classes and used it automatically and rebuilt a new style sheet from source, like Bootstrap, but only use those classes. I would like to see more support from Microsoft in the Sass realm. It's just not there. We have Web Compiler. It is, I used to recommend Web Compiler, but it has gone to the point where it's not maintained well. So I've started to not tell people to use that. Their Sass compiler is out of date. Some style sheets do not compile anymore. It's very frustrating. I'd like to see Microsoft jump on that and maybe do some of these things. But yeah, it'd be nice to have a happy medium. There could be something in the future for the framework that this is baked in. We shall see. Let's see. It's also easy to include. So this Dark Repulsor says it's also easy to include from a shared file. So the style tag goes into file 1 and used in 2 different places. Or is it easier? That I'm not sure. or are we forced to have it in the component itself? So yeah, it is forced to be in the component itself unless you name it. So I couldn't get this one to work with a name because of the animation. I need to see if this is user error or if it's a bug. But you can essentially name a style. So there was two syntax to use here. There's styled, styled, like this. And then I can put a selector like that and write my style in here. Or there's this bind class name, which eliminates the name. Now, if I use option A, we'll call this option A, then I will get a selector that's reusable and global and overridable and all the things we'd expect from a normal CSS. And in that case, I think it goes with your idea that it can be used in two different places. If we go with option B, the idea is that it will be contained within this component, and the ideal situation is to not use it somewhere else, and it's only supposed to be used for this component. And that is the actual goal of doing it like this, is because we want to generate a random selector for it so somebody doesn't inadvertently override the values in here. I think a lot of this has to do with just bad CSS practices in general, and this helps resolve some of those issues without training people how to write good CSS. I'm not saying one of those things is good or bad, just pointing out that's the way it is. I'll go to a CSS file and I'll show you what I mean. This is a long CSS file. It's got 700 lines to it. This is the minified file. This is probably already written in Sass somewhere. So my first thing would be like, first of all, write this in Sass. So what people normally do though is they get the CSS file and they're like, I need to add my thing or my color or whatever. They just go down to the bottom. They just like, they're like SK or whatever, some value. And then they put their thing in here, like maybe background color is blue, and they find out it doesn't work, and it's because there's some CSS already written for that. So what they do is they just come in there like, well, my thing's important. So now you've got this thing cemented in that you can never change, and it's just terrible. So the first thing would be to train people just to not do that, show them how to use Sass, make them write code the right way. But this type of thing also solves that problem because you can't go into this and throw importance all over it. They're not going to matter because the CSS selectors are auto-generated. So you can't really go to the file and try to override it because it doesn't have a known selector ID that you can just go in and start hacking away at. So pretty cool. I think I'm going to, unless there's other questions, I think this example kind of stands for what I wanted to accomplish today. We're able to actually take one of the spinners and move it to this. I could probably do this for all of the spinners very easily. And then once again, refactor out the common bits and make my base class just like I have it and move everything over to styled. So the benefit would be the options I'm weighing out here are the styles then get loaded per use of the component. So I would have encapsulated, if I'm using the bounce spinner or the chase spinner, I'm only using the CSS for that thing. That is nice. I would have CSS, or I would have IntelliSense around the color and size a little bit more in the .NET side of things rather than the CSS side of things. That's a benefit. On the downside, I'm moving away from CSS conventions, which are global, ubiquitous conventions, And then I also have to add a dependency in the consuming project for the styled framework. So that adds another step. So there's two ways to add dependencies. So I guess it's not an added step so much as a different one. So I would have to come in and add this NuGet package versus coming into my index and adding the CSS file. Same but different. It's a dependency I need to add, whether I add it through NuGet or I add it through CSS convention. That's my trade-off. It's pretty cool stuff. I could see why people would like to use this. Now, I am going to point out something else that I see as a benefit for CSS. If I use the styled approach, so I have this CSS and it's in the component, okay, that means I need to be in a Blazor application in order for this component to work. In order for the style to exist, I have to be inside of a Blazor application. Think about that for a moment, because in my example, if you look at my index page for the client-side Blazor project, I have a non-Blazor component spinner. So what that means is if I load this project, and it's going to load pretty quick, so I don't know if we'll be able to see it. Oh, no, there it goes. It was very quick. Maybe I can slow that down somehow. Let me look at my tools here. Let me drop my network performance down. Is it under performance? No, network. Maybe I have to toggle this guy here. Online, there we go. Low-end mobile. Let's make this, that's responsive. Let's take this down. So here's another, now this doesn't go for a lot of components. This is a very specific thing to what we're working with spinners. I'm gonna reload this. Come on, empty cache. What is it doing? Ah, there we go. There's my loading component running outside of Blazor. So my spinner is a standard HTML and CSS spinner that is now running as the loading screen for my application that Blazor does not exist in yet. So I'm able to do that with CSS. I can use the CSS from these components outside of Blazor. So that's something you have to think about as well. That's not going to be for a lot of things. The spin kit is very specific to needing it for a scenario like this, where I'm not in Blazor yet, but I still want to use that CSS from my spinner component, and I can do that with just regular CSS. And that is inside of my app tag. I have an overlay, and then I have my SK wave component. So it's just the regular CSS. And man, how long is this thing supposed to take? This is supposed to be slow 3G. Let's tune that up to fast 3G. Holy cow. Is it ever gonna finish loading? Like, okay, you get the point, but you think it would, is 3G that bad? 3G is that terrible, isn't it? Might as well be offline at this point. Oh, it finally finished. Wow, that's brutal. All right. So there's the component rendered without any razor markup, and it's doing it right inside of the app tag. So when the application finishes loading, my app actually replaces all of this, and that component goes away. So pretty interesting stuff. I think for the spin kit stuff, just based on the fact alone that I can use it outside of Blazor, I probably wouldn't replace it with styled. But for other components that don't have that requirement, I've essentially got like probably 15 spinners in here that are all loading all of the CSS all the time. If I was just doing that, it would be beneficial to not have all that extra CSS laying around. So that's pretty cool. Those are some things to think about. I also like that the CSS variables are still an option, and SAS code is still kind of respected in here with some of the ampersand syntax and stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and I will publish this branch as an experiment. We'll never ship that with the code, I don't think. So I'm going to go ahead and publish it, though, if anybody wants to look at it. It is online. Oh, I'm not going to log into this right this second while I'm streaming, because I think I have to look up my password, and there's a whole two-factor authentication piece to it. But I will upload that after the show here. I'm going to call it quits for today. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll do this again next week, and we also have a special event on Code It Live next week as well. I should have kept that tab open. Let me throw it in my history here. I know I've got it in here still. So Code It quarantine coding is right here. Quarantine coding next week. Me and my coworker Alyssa will be on in the afternoon, but tune in all day. Sam and TJ are on in the morning. We're going up against them in a little build-off. Add it to your calendar. It's a free event. Doesn't require any kind of sign-up or anything. Just join us on Twitch, on the Code It Live channel, and we're going to build stuff. We're going to use Blazor. We're going to use some other stuff too, some other technology. So Sam Mars, thank you for following, and let's go raid somebody. Let's do a raid. So let's see here. Let me pull up my raid screen and raid channel. Who do we got? We have Lana Lux, Michael Crump with 0 viewers. How could that be? Is he online? Is he actually live? Michael, are you online? I'm just trying to see if a buddy of mine is streaming. We've got... All right. We can't raid somebody that is in limbo. It says he's live, has no viewers, and has a black screen. So I don't know what's going on there. We've got Clark IO or Clark.io. And we've got Lana Lux. So we can do the Scoobs. You're very welcome. Would you all be interested in JavaScript or Unity if we wanted to do a raid here? Missed Shift, thank you for following. Appreciate that. Again, I wish Michael Crump was on. We could raid him, but it seems like there's some kind of streaming error there. Let's go ahead and I think we did Lana Lux the last 2 times. Let's go ahead and raid Clark.io. He's talking about the Live Coders Conference coming up in April as well. We're going to start a raid on him. Thanks again. We'll see you next week on Code It Live and later on my channel. So take care, everybody. Stay inside, wash your hands, all that good stuff. And we'll see you soon. And my raid's not working. Let's try another raid. Start raid. I can't raid. So looks like raiding is not in the cards today. So go join your next favorite streamer, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.